My dear narcissistic abuse survivor, you were never meant to fit in. That is the truth nobody told you. That is why the betrayal felt deeper, why the abandonment from so many narcissistic people cut sharper, and why you found yourself standing alone while those people, your own family, your own partner, you loved, turned their backs on you. You thought you were losing everything, but God, universe was actually stripping you of illusions. You were not being punished. You were being pushed and prepared, because when God decides to make you the nightmare of a narcissist or the collective spirit of narcissism, He doesn't just hand you that power. He breaks you first. Wait before you say, "Isn't that cruel or unjust?" He crushes you, shatters you, not to destroy you, but to show you the truth about the world, about the people, about the faces you thought were friends and family, but were really masks. It's painful, unbearable at times. You feel forsaken, abandoned, and cursed. But you are none of those things. You are chosen. And being chosen is a lonely, brutal road. Hi, I am Danish, a narcissistic abuse recovery professional. Welcome to my channel. The topic for today's episode is very spiritual. How God intends to turn you into the narcissist's worst nightmare. You were separated from your narcissistic family, not because you were not good enough, but because they were never truly with you. They were never your family. Maybe they loved the version of you that served them. They gave you a role, didn't they? They loved the version of you that served them. They loved you as a role that stayed silent, that tolerated their cruelty. But they did not love the real you, the strong, awake, self-aware you. So when you began to see through their masks, when you dared to speak the truth, they rejected you for obvious reasons. They didn't push you away. God pulled you out. Yes, it was painful. It was cutting that umbilical cord, but that's what happened. Why though? Because when God plans to use you for something greater, something bigger than you, He does not allow you to stay among people who would crush your spirit. He removes you from environments where you would be used, abused, and discarded. He separates you so you can heal, so you can become who you were always meant to be, that narcissist nightmare. And yes, it feels like exile. It feels like a curse in the beginning, but it is a blessing in disguise. I am a living proof of that. When experiencing that abuse, you were not imagining things. You were not making up things. You were not being paranoid. You were not overreacting. You were seeing the truth for the first time, the truth that most people do not choose to see. Because when God decides to elevate you, He opens your eyes. That's the most important thing. You start noticing how fake the smiles are, smiles that most people think are genuine. Those compliments, they feel sharp, and you can understand the real meaning. You know they are not coming from their heart. You deeply understand at a subconscious level that the love they claimed to have for you was really just control, like I did in my mother's case. And when you resist their control, what do? They lash out, they smear you, they make you the villain, like I was made in my entire family. It's not because you changed, that's what they'll say. It's because you woke up. And that different version of yours is what they cannot ever accept, because your new version demands that they should change, that they should acknowledge they are rotten, they need to give up on their selfishness, and they need to be better. The minute you woke up, their masks began to fall, slowly, then all at once. You started seeing their enemy, their jealousy, their cruelty, their manipulation. You saw how they delighted in your pain, how they kept you small, kept you doubting, kept you begging for scraps of love, and then you realized you do not deserve any of that. God let you see it for a purpose, not to destroy you, but to free you, because you cannot conquer what you cannot see. And sometimes seeing things for what they are is the most painful thing that can happen to you. The moment you said no more, you became the ultimate enemy. The moment you stopped playing their game, they called you crazy, selfish, ungrateful. They could not stand your strength because it meant they could no longer control you. So they pushed you out. They whispered about you. They twisted your story. They made you the outcast, didn't they? And God allowed it for a reason, because He knew something you did not know yet. He knew that loneliness was safer than betrayal, that solitude would heal you faster than fake love, that your isolation wasn't punishment, it was protection of some sort, because He does not let His chosen ones, His children, stay among those who would destroy them. I know it's lonely and there is no one from your family or even your friends that walks on the same path, but you see, it's worth it. When you cry, when you feel like nobody is hearing, God is. When you reach out and everyone pulls back, God doesn't. Sometimes your gift may wonder if you are cursed, if you are broken, if you deserve this, but you do not. It's just how your journey is supposed to be. You are being forged, because chosen ones walk lonely. God isolates those He is preparing, not to hurt them, but to train them, to sharpen them, to make them warriors. The world rejects you so that you can learn to stand alone, so you can learn that your strength does not come from the approval of those narcissists, but from God alone. That's the ultimate truth. Because if they could break you, they would own you. But when you belong to God, you do not belong to anyone else. And when you finally understand that, when you can finally stand alone, that is when you become unstoppable, and ultimately that narcissist's worst nightmare. In the beginning of this episode, I said God breaks you, but why does He do so? Why did He break you first? Because strength does not come from comfort, does it? Power does not come from easy love. Clarity does not come from blind trust. God had to shatter you to show you the truth, to rip off every mask, to remove every lie, to make you question everything and basically everyone, so that you would stop leaning on people and start leaning on Him, because He's the only reliable source. And in that breaking, He showed you who was real, who was for you, who was against you, who would stand with you, and who would only stand over you. You did not lose them. They actually lost you. You did not lose that family because you didn't have any. You lost abusers. You did not lose love. You lost control disguised as love. And every tear, every betrayal, every lonely night, it was God pulling you closer to Himself. How many of you have experienced spiritual awakening as a result of going through narcissistic abuse? How many of you have come closer to God because of what you have experienced? I know there are so many people, and I am one of those. It was God preparing you for something bigger that probably you are living or will live, something greater, something that required strength and courage and an unwavering sense of who you are. Because you cannot destroy a narcissist if you are still seeking their approval. You cannot expose them if you are still afraid of losing them. God had to break that fear out of you. He had to burn it away until all that was left was you, raw, real, and ready. I hope that answers why you had to experience what you experienced. Having experienced all that abuse is what makes you the nightmare for the collective demonic spirit of narcissism. Now they cannot control you. They cannot manipulate you anymore because you know more than enough. They cannot shame you into silence. You see through their games. You know their tactics. You know their weaknesses. And nothing terrifies a narcissist or a narcissistic system more than something they cannot control. You do not need them anymore. That's why they fear you. You do not crave their approval anymore. That is why they hate you. You don't bow to their lies anymore. That's why they try to destroy you. But they can't, because God already allowed you to be broken. And the good news is you already survived it. You came out stronger, didn't you? Sharper and more dangerous than they ever expected you to be. You became what they feared most. Someone who cannot be silenced at any cost, someone who cannot be fooled, someone who knows the truth and is not afraid to speak it. Now, what is God's final plan for you? God is positioning you for purpose, for power, something like this, something like what I'm doing, for a calling that is bigger than revenge, bigger than pain, bigger than the people who try to break you. Because God did not just break you to heal you. That's just one phase of it. He broke you to build you, to create in you a strength that this world cannot shake, to give you the kind of clarity that no lie can touch, to set you apart, not just to be free, but to help others break free too. You were chosen for this. That's why it hurt so much. That's why it took so long. That's why the losses were so big and heavy. Because the weight of your purpose is heavy as well. I want you to deeply, deeply realize that. You are ready now though. You are their nightmare because you survived what was meant to destroy you, demolish you. Because you see them for what they are. Because you have learned that losing everything was the only way to gain yourself. So, walk tall, speak boldly, and know this. What they meant for harm, God used for strength. What they used to shame you, God used to prepare you. You were chosen for this fight. I know it feels really difficult, it is exhausting, but you are unstoppable and you have to step into that awareness, into that knowing to become your most authentic version possible. That was my message for you today. With that, let's bring this episode to an end. Before you go, let me know in the comments if you resonated with this one. I will talk to you in the next one. Until then, as always, let the healing begin and continue.